All right, let's go to Kim Mora, social media queen in our social media room. Let's see. Hello.
Hello.
All right, what do you got for immigration today?
Okay, Lee on Facebook wants to know, can you travel out of the country if your domestic case was dismissed?
Yes, as long as it was definitely dismissed. Domestic violence case, I assume.
Okay. Princess would like to know, I want to know if you filed for your husband's child, would that child be a citizen under you?
If you file for your husband's child, would that no, you can't derive citizenship through a step-parent relationship. They would get a green card, but you can't derive it through the step-parent relationship.
Okay. Isha would like to know, can a child file a petition for a mother and stepfather if the mother is currently in the U.S. and the stepfather is in Antigua?
Yes.
Damien has a little bit of a long question. He recently got his green card back. He renewed it. He's about to do his citizenship, and he just did his fingerprints 2 years ago. He's lived here for more than 10 years, but has a misdemeanor class B on his record. Every time he's traveled to Jamaica and come back, they have held him at the airport and then let him go. He's going to see his fiance for Christmas. Is it possible that they could deport him or stop him from entering the country?
What Class B felony or misdemeanor?
A misdemeanor.
What
misdemeanor
was it for?
class.
What was it for?
He does not say that.
It depends what it was for and what state it was in. You gave a whole long story but didn't give me the information that I need. What were you convicted of?
That's needed.
So, Damien, we need what you were convicted of and where you were convicted.
Where you were convicted and when.
Okay.
Okay, those are always the questions we need to answer. What were you convicted of, in what state, and when did it happen? And when did you get your green card, and when did you first start living in America? Those are the 5 things that I need to tell you
in order to
answer whether you're free to travel or not. Let's go through it again. So if you want to leave your question, you are going to give this information. When did you come to America? When did you get your green card? What were you arrested for and convicted of? Then I need to know if it was a B misdemeanor, an A. What was your sentence? So your sentence would be, it was a B misdemeanor, an A misdemeanor, no jail time, whatever it was, probation, fine. And when did this all happen? And in what state? So it's actually 7 things. If I have all of that information, I can tell you point blank right here whether to travel or not.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Moving right along.
Hector has a bit, I think it's more of a theoretical question.
Theoretical.
Could you guys talk more about the Adam Walsh law with immigration? I've heard of people getting caught up for stuff they did as teenagers and end up having to pay the price years later, even if they weren't convicted but had to register as a sex offender while on probation.
If you are, well, first of all, if you're on probation, you were convicted. Number 2, you wouldn't be registering as a sex offender unless you were convicted of something. Number 3, the Adam Walsh waiver was put in place to protect. It doesn't protect. I'm telling you what the purpose was.
Right.
Okay. The purpose was to protect immigrants from living with a sex offender, because the belief is that if you're a sex offender and you're on the sex offender registered list, that you are going to continue to be a sex offender in the future. And so the Adam Walsh waiver, if you are on the sex offender list, is that that's the U.S. citizen has to make a waiver and prove to the Immigration Service that that this person is absolutely safe to live with the sex offender. Now, there is no way in the world that no matter what expert, psychiatrist, affidavits, or anything else that you can show, that anyone can say to a 100% degree certainty that somebody is safe living in a house with somebody else. They can say, this person hasn't had a issue in 22 years. They're in therapy. I've met with them. It is extraordinarily unlikely that anything would happen. That's the best you would ever get anybody to say. And that in of itself is not enough to get an Adam Walsh waiver under the law. So you end up having to sue the government. So people who are on the sex offender list, just by operation of the way they wrote the law and the way that the Immigration Service looks at the law, are really basically prevented from filing for their spouses.
Right.
Now what
That's how they
happens
set it
is this. They're not protecting anybody because the spouse is married to them. They're still living in the same house for years and years and years, trying to get the spouse a green card, and the spouse can't get a green card, yet they're still living together. And nothing's happened. So the only thing they're doing is basically punishing the immigrant from being able to become legal and live with a person that they want to live with. If the immigrant is aware that this person that they married is a sex offender, that he or she has had this conviction in the past, and quite frankly, if that's who they fall in love with, and that's and obviously there's always a risk, I assume. There's a risk in marrying anybody. You don't know who anybody is. Just because they had this bomber who bombed the train station in Times Square, never did anything before in his entire life. He wasn't even on anybody's watch list, radar. So anybody's capable of anything at any time, unfortunately, and that's sad. But certainly, if they're willing to take that risk and they're knowledgeable and they know that this person's a sex offender and they still want to be married and live with them, what's it to the U.S. government? To me.
That makes sense.
So there is my take on the Adam Walsh waiver.
Okay.
Now, it's a different story. It's a different story because I just want to say this. There's sometimes where spouses say, I didn't know. So yes, I think part of the process should be that the spouse should be made aware, just for those spouses who may not have known about this person's past, by all means. But, to show that it's absolutely almost a virtual impossibility that anything bad will happen to them, nobody can ever prove that. It's impossible to prove. How could a psychiatrist get on the stand and say, absolutely, it is completely safe for this person to live there? They can't. They could just say it is highly unlikely that anything happened. They haven't done anything in 22 years.
Right. That makes sense.
1-800-529-5465, The Brad and Squeeze Show. Heating up.
Heating up.
Heating up.
It is getting hot in here.
It's getting hot in here. Don't take off your clothes, Brad.
No.
There it is.
But that's when Squeeze and I have been doing the radio show way too long that we both started singing the same song at the same time.
Absolutely. That is 20 years.
Yes.
Enough.
That is right. It's not like Squeeze and I, came on the show and said, okay, at the 9:35 mark, we're going to start singing on cue. It's getting hot in here. That never happened.
No, a lot of things never happened.
I don't know. You guys coordinate pretty well.
Yes,
I'm not sure that didn't go down that way. Damien does have a follow-up.
Yes.
He said he came in 1989 to New York. He lives in New York. The crime happened 20 years ago. It was a knife that he got a hold of. Doesn't say exactly what happened with the knife. He didn't do any jail time. He was just held for 3 days and didn't get a jail sentence, didn't get a sentence. And everything happened in New York.
In 1989, B misdemeanor, he should be okay to travel.
Okay.
But, because a knife is not a deportable offense. But they don't know this at the airport. That's why they stop you all the time. Okay,
Right.
So you're best off, why don't you just become a citizen?
I was just about to say.
All right.